Hello, and welcome to another edition of Exclusive Interview, coming to you from the studios of 84 TV Radio Abuja, Nigeria. My name is Stanley Bentu. Now, there are a number of experts who believe that one of the negative legacies of military incursion into politics in Nigeria is the erosion of the police force. Now, whether or not you agree with this view, the critical question remains, what are we going to do about it? Take a look at this report.
Once upon a time, all a Nigerian policeman needed to keep crime in check was a baton and the goodwill of the people. Many years later, as crime became more violent and sophisticated, the Nigeria police force found itself struggling to keep up with a rapidly growing population, with too many youths left to fall through the cracks. Extremist ideologies and political actors have also played a dark role in funding and fueling violent crime. As a consequence, the Nigerian military, designed to protect the integrity of the nation's borders and neutralize external threats, have found themselves in one form of peace enforcement or the other across the country. Nearly 60 years into Nigeria's sovereign journey, the question still remains: how best do we police the nation? On the show today, we speak to Jibrin Baba Ndachi, a security analyst with ideas on the best approach.
Joining me today on Exclusive Interview is the Defense and Security Editor of the Blueprint newspaper, Jibrin Baba Ndachi. It's a pleasure to see you again.
Stanley, it's good to be here, and I'm glad you're doing very well. I follow all your exclusive interview, and you do a great job here.
Thank you very much.
I'm so glad that this brand is deepening media space and deepening discussions on national unity and all other areas for the good of Nigeria.
Welcome to 84 TV Radio.
It's my pleasure to be here.
So, my first question is, Nigerian policing has suffered so many setbacks over the years. If it were up to you to trace back, where did we miss it when it comes to policing of our country?
Well, this is a very, I will say, a question that will take almost 10 hours to answer. Because if you look at, for a number of years, one of the biggest challenge of police in Nigeria is consistency and being futuristic, like in most other areas of the country. The world has changed, as we all know. But let's even take it from 1999 to date. If you look at one particular issue that keep the debate as on when you talk about particularly the Nigerian police in internal security operation is community policing, and the debate whether it's community policing or state police, you know, police. And that has been on. You know, one of my columns, I think about 2 months ago, was on community policing, and the question that I asked is that, for instance, the current Inspector General of Police even won an award as a Commissioner of Police, I think in Enugu, for his effort at community policing. And I was wondering, you know, it took some stakeholder, particularly the National Assembly, up to a point when the IGP has spent 1 year in office and there were crises, some seeming crises in the country, and then he was invited. And this, I thought, you know, that an issue like that should have been one of the yardstick that should have even be used, and a mandate that the National Assembly, for instance, should have given to him to say, look, you have an expertise, you even won an award on this, as we've seen around the world, the global best practices and all of that. Yeah. Once somebody is to be appointed to an office, he has his pedigree, and then that pedigree will be used to judge him and to give him some specific directive to say this is what you're supposed to do. But if you look at it generally, in the last over 20 years, the return of democracy, I think the Nigerian police in policing, because Nigerian police is the lead agency in internal security operation. You know, what we see today in Nigeria is an aberration. It's not something that should be so. if you look at the constitutional mandate, particularly of the Nigerian Armed Forces, is to protect the territorial integrity of Nigeria from external aggression and internal insurrection. Unless it gets to a certain level, it shouldn't be protracted as you find today.
Even if it gets out of hand.
If it gets out of hand, they step in and they step out.
And then step
out. But
not these long, drawn out
if you say it now as
see.
it is today, the Nigerian forces deploy in almost every part of this country and the FCT. I want to talk about the armed forces. I'm talking about Army, Navy and Air Force. So
but
on land, at sea and on air.
Why do we keep doing the same things? I mean, almost every step that Nigeria has taken over the years seems to point to the fact that our police force is not working the way it's supposed to. We have the military, which has stepped in for enforcement.
Yes.
We also have the Federal Road Safety Corps, which implies that the police is not, fully capable of handling the freeways and the highways. You have the NSCDC,
yes,
which
civil
is
defense.
The civil defense.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, even when it comes to investigation of corruption cases, we have the EFCC. Yeah. But if you look at other countries, all these are policing duties.
Yeah.
All these things are supposed to be units within the Nigerian police force. So we're basically admitting that our police force is just not sufficient to our needs.
If you look at it, just like Nigeria, some other part of the world also have also removed some of these departments that play the police role to an independent paramilitary organization. But I think that the biggest challenge is that that should have even given the Nigerian police the opportunity to concentrate on key challenges of internal security. But let me, in my research and when I amplified the issue of community policing, what I found is that the IGP, I think it was Tafa Balogun, who at that particular point, that was under President Olusegun Obasanjo, who took the issue of community policing serious and one of his agenda and all of that. So from from that particular point, I think every other Inspector General of Police had one thing or the other on community policing. But you see, security agencies have limited authority to do anything because they are what's called civilian control. They are appointed. There has to be a strategic directive from the political masters, if you like, in quote. That is the executive. So there has to be some level of seriousness both from the executive and the legislative half of government on a particular issue. For instance, once an IGP is appointed, one of the specific directives that should be given maybe by the president and commander-in-chief should say, look, you have to, your mandate, one of your number one mandate is to ensure that the community policing is taken to logical conclusion. And then the National Assembly supports such a directive by Mr. President, working closely when they come to also screening to say, look, the Inspector General of Police, we have policing Nigeria become increasingly difficult, and we want Nigerian armed forces to return to the barrack and face other very serious security challenge or even external aggression. You need to come up with a plan. How do you intend to implement community policing in our own community? Because the challenges we are facing now is we are dealing with criminal non-state actors. So even physical carrying guns and bullets is no longer a main, because you are dealing with criminal. You are not dealing with face-to-face criminal that have uniform that you can identify. They move into communities, So it has to be intelligence-driven. It has to be technological-driven. And Nigerian police need to be equipped. It needs to be dealing with more manpower, more boots on the ground around the country. But they need to work with the people in the country.
I would like to ask a question on that, especially concerning the quality of the manpower within the police. I recently saw a video of a policewoman who had been, rough handled by a man in the street. And much as that was a very reprehensible act carried out against an officer of the law. But I was also very worried about the difficulty that the policewoman or the police officer had in even expressing herself and explaining what had happened to her. Now, I was thinking to myself, can this person actually handle the kind of high-tech crimes that happen today when it comes to, forensics, when it comes to intelligence gathering and analysis, data analysis, and all of these things that 21st century policing requires? So there is a question to be asked about the quality of the people that the body of the police force should have.
You raise a very valid point. This has been consigned not just the Nigerian police, but across other security agencies. But we cannot use that particular incident to define the entire Nigerian police, because they are also part of a system. They are Nigerians. They also come out from this system. We also have some of the best Nigerian police, and you discover that when they go overseas, some of these Nigerian police have won award for their determination and patriotic zeal in carrying out the research. So there's something that is fundamentally wrong with our own system in terms of how we motivate. Even
but is the gap too large, though, between the officer cadre and the rank and file?
Yes, all in the past, but that gap is gradually being closed. You recall that, like in the Nigerian Army, you have the period of the 63NA, where largely generation of our parents who and grandparents who joined the military wasn't largely based on education. It was just out of patriotic zeal to want to join. But gradually, you can see you can hardly find anybody now in the Nigerian police or other security agency that at least doesn't have a school cert. But sometime again, even on the job training and even a personal determination to want to do so, because even if you are in the police force and the service want to train you and you are not so open, to making a difference in your own career by taking advantage of all the available training that I know. Yes, that is because
we'll take a break at this point, but when we come back, I'll ask my guest exactly how Nigeria should be policed. Do we have a clear understanding as to how to delineate between the federal, state, and community policing? Don't go away. We will be right back. Welcome back. I've been having a chat with Jibrin Baba Ndache, who's the security and defense editor of the Blueprint newspaper. Policing Nigeria is what we've been talking about, and recently we've seen various attempts by different segments of the country doing their best, because the challenges are huge, as you mentioned earlier. So we had the Amotekun, which came up, and it was a big debate back then. It seems to have subsided as, a lot of the thorny areas have been worked out. But recently, again, there was another debate as to whether they should be armed, should they not be armed, or whether the federal government should provide funding. And these are some of the complications that the critics of that particular development said would happen. They said it was a slippery slope, and it's to some extent proving to be that way. So where are we missing it? Do we have a clear understanding of what we want for community?
I think, Stanley, one of our biggest challenges as a country, and I had cause to raise it in several fora and even in my column, is that we respond based on spur at the moment. When there is one attack or one criminal element attacking a community, bandit or kidnappers, and then you find the National Assembly or some Nigerians, take up issue as if that is the world is going to end. There is nowhere in the world. The issue of securing a country or policing a country is something that is systematic. It has to be short, medium, and long-term planning. It's not one-off, and it's not dependent on administration. There has to be an agenda. And I've had cause to ask even in some of my write-up about, for instance, do we have a legislative agenda on security? For instance, each of these, you say 7th Assembly, 8th Assembly, I think we're in the 9th Assembly. Do we have a legislative agenda on security that say that, look, this is the agenda, 5 years plan in terms of needs of Nigerian police, equipment, funding, training, welfare package, and all of that. And even in terms of when you talk about recruitment, you have plan and say, okay, this year in the first quarter we are recruiting this number of men based on, and even such kind of anticipatory legislative agenda will also help to look at anticipate various security challenges in the country. Each of the senators represent a constitution, an area in the state. House of Rep members also the same thing. They know the challenges from their on ground. If they want information from their own area, they know as they come into the National Assembly, they know the challenges that each of their areas face in the country, and they can come and say, look, this is the challenges they are facing now. This is the way to go. This is how to help Nigerian police. This is how to help armed forces. This is how we think this should be done. But we have to empower Nigerian police as the lead agency in inter-security operation to be able to do its constitutional responsibility of secure our country. But doing that requires...
So what should the role of the community police be?
First, I would like to share my experience while I was in Mina as the spokesperson of Niger State Governor Alhaji Abubakar Sani Bello. He always insists that security is a collective responsibility, and therefore the world has changed, like I noted earlier. Community leaders, religious leaders, traditional institutions, and all stakeholders must work collectively together. You can hardly find any state now in this country that you don't have a form of vigilante, either within a local government or within that informally is recognized to help the Nigerian police, in also, because understanding the grounds, you require to work with people in the community, and that is why the issue of community policing is very important, because now police is taking the policing back to the people, like you find in other parts of the world. Policing is about people taking responsibility for their own community.
But wouldn't the question now come up that what if there's escalation? Sooner or later, these vigilante groups are going to require some sort of armaments. I mean, already, I think some of them carry Dane guns. But how long before they need AK-47s? How long before they need Uzis?
Yeah, you see, all those are, like I noted earlier, they are anomalies. When you talk about community policing, you shouldn't, is due to the escalation that you find. Otherwise, community policing means it means having constables within communities and people that will interface with the community. Informers, somebody comes friendly into a community, there are already a mechanism to inform the appropriate quarters that we have a strange person, and then that person, if it is seen with anybody within the community, that person is invited either by the village head, community head, or leader, and said, we find so person within your community, and they inform the police that we have strange movement within our community and we think you should know, and the police take it up. But now you find a situation where communities have to also police themselves by ensuring, because once there is an attack and then a second attack and there is no help coming, men will have to just take up whatever is available to protect their own community. I think that is what you find in other communities. Otherwise, usually vigilantes are not necessarily take arms at all. Even
unfortunately, our reality,
yes, our reality different, and even the issue you raise about Amotekun and all that, all these are an aberration. Of course, we say this is a federation, and once we want to do this, we have to do it systematically and not play into the gallery as if this is a big deal.
Is it time that maybe the National Assembly begins to debate about a change of the architecture of the Nigerian police? The Constitution says there shall be one police force. Is it time to say, okay, let's break it down. perhaps look at systems in other countries. For instance, the U.S., which operates, you have your
the federal police, you have your county, yes,
you have your state rangers, and you have the
even even the National Guard. And for instance, you say, Stanley, I talk about even being futuristic. You recall that once upon a time in this country, National Guard was established. But it was killed by Nigeria. It was killed by Nigeria.
Former President Babangida made reference to that.
It was killed by Nigerians.
Had they completed the project?
The Northeast, because what you find today, the hub, the hub of Boko Haram that was dislodged by the military at some point, was the training ground of the camp. But when you look at global best practices, Stanley, you find that just like you go to the US, you have National Guard. They are called upon not just in safeguarding the security of the borders, but in time of emergency. And that reduced the burden on Nigerian police to be able to focus on other things. And you have complementary role, you have synergy, a state, rather than putting all the burden on Nigerian police, the National Guard can assist. And all of that. So we always our solution to our challenges, either security or otherwise, is regime dependent, administration dependent. And then we're looking at 8 years. Stanley, you know that in developed countries, they don't look at 8 years in their plan. They don't look at 2 terms of a president or a governor. They look at 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years. Because population is growing, the criminals are becoming bolder. Criminal non-state actors all over the world are becoming more aggressive. They are becoming more daring, dangerous.
And with a large population, like finding a needle
so it's becoming extremely difficult. So we don't wait until this. And I have mentioned this severally. All these challenges we are facing. You go to our research institutions, especially in the military, you go to National Defense College, you go to NIPS in Jos, you go to Jaji, and similar institutions. There is nothing new. Researchers have anticipated all this that Nigeria is likely going to face this issue of banditry, kidnapping in the number of years, if social state, with recommendations. Are we working with this recommendation? Are we looking at this research material by security officers who have gone, or civilians who have gone on courses? Are we working with all of these models which have been? Are we also looking at international best practices in, like you said, what work for US, what should work for us? And we are not talking about cut and paste. Looking at our own peculiarity as a society, and adapting it to our own. Even within Nigeria, you don't use the same strategy all around the geopolitical zone. Each state has its own peculiarity, each community has its own peculiarity, and then we work with a system that works for us. If you are talking about community policing in state A, that may not work for another state. The structure within a particular state may be different from a similar state. For instance, you go to some state, they are battling with cultism. You go to some, it's banditry and kidnapping, and they have a big network. Some of these networks, some of them live within the community and they operate in the night. So we need to come up with a holistic strategy, and then one of the biggest challenges is synergy, intra and inter-services competition, and even within the Nigerian police. For instance, I know that the counter-terrorism unit of the Nigerian police is almost over a decade now. How functional is that department? How empowered are they? When there are challenges, are they allowed to do their job? The Nigerian police itself, what is their strength? But even when we talk about strength, if you go to a divisional police office now, what will you find there? How secure is even the environment? You heard about a serial killer that was kept in a police station, I think in Ogun State, and he escaped. In other part of the world, Stanley, will the security forces keep such high-value criminal in an unsecured, considered unsecured environment? Somebody who is so powerful within an environment, who is an emboldened criminal, and you keep him just in an area that he has contact within and even without.
I can see what the problem with that is.
Yes.
So very quickly, can you tell us 3 things that you would do to make sure that policing in Nigeria is improved? What are 3 critical things that we need to do?
The first thing is to look at the police itself. When I say look at the police, the manpower, equipment, and then welfare package of the Nigerian police. You know, you need to build a police that they have the confidence in themselves. And a police, just like other security agencies, that even when they pay the supreme price, their family will not regret that their owners paid the supreme price. Not that somebody is in the police and he died in active service in where the family, still the family is still waiting for what you call gratuity, and they have to literally beg for it, and they send them out of the police quarters. Barrack.
What's the second thing?
The second thing is Nigerians. We must change our attitude to our security agencies. Nigerian police, the armed forces, and other security agencies, they are not foreigners, they are Nigerians. They just decided to choose a path that some of us are not willing, or don't have the patriotic zeal, or they don't have the bravery and courage to follow. If they choose this path, it shouldn't be blamed always. It shouldn't be abused always, using the social media or platform to condemn our forces. No. If one police has done something wrong, like you pointed out of that police, we shouldn't generalize and use that against the whole Nigerian police. If one military man has done something, teach that particular military person and let him be there to ensure that law take its course. But you can't use that particular person and then use it as if the whole the Nigerian police. Okay, what you say on the social media and traditional media is very important. Let's commend
the final thing you would do.
The final thing is that we must, as synergy is the final thing. No security agency can do it alone. Even though Nigerian police is the lead agency, we have other security agencies that can work closely with them to assist in ensuring that we have Nigeria is well policed. And when I say synergy, synergy is across board. The populace, other security agents. For instance, the security challenge at the border town, Nigerian police should not just go there and say it is our own. You have immigration there. You have custom. Even though that may not be their primary role, once they work closely together, they can combine their primary responsibility and helping the Nigerian police with information. For instance, what happened in Nasarawa State, where a terrorist cell was busted, is as a result of the effort of the people of the community to volunteer information. And then importantly, Stanley, the Nigerian police, other security agents especially, must have a way to protect citizens that volunteer information. We have had cases, even on a program that I had, my own program on radio, a caller said he volunteered information to Nigerian police, and the next thing he was attacked and shot the other judge. So this is very important.
Thank you very much, Jibrin Baba Ndache. It's been a pleasure having you on this show, and we certainly have learned a lot.
Yeah, the pleasure is mine. I'm also very excited to be here, and keep up the good work, Stanley.
We will be right back. Very interesting views there expressed by Jibrin Baba Ndache. He talked about policing Nigeria, and there are 3 things mentioned that we must do. First, we need to take a look at the police. We need to provide manpower, equipment, and look at the welfare package for the Nigerian police force. Nigeria needs to build a police that has confidence in itself. And the second thing we need to do is that Nigerians must change their attitudes to security agencies. Operatives are not foreigners. They're just Nigerians who have chosen a different path to protect the people. So, we need to watch what we say about the police on both social and traditional media. And finally, no security agency can do it alone. There must be synergy between the police and other security agencies, as well as among the populace. But beyond that, if the people are going to do their own part, then the police must have a way to protect citizens that provide information for them. And if we do that, we would police our country much better. And that's it on Exclusive Interview for today. Until we come your way again next time, thank you for stopping by.